It's an addiction. God says that there's something to do with the mold on typewriter ribbons, and it's the smell, and it gets into your system. I suppose it's an addiction a wee bit like petrol sniffing or something. I mean, the smell of typewriter ribbons just gets to you and you just can't get away from it. I saw an old typewriter in a bric-a-brac store in Maruya, and I looked at it and I walked away and I went back and I walked away and I went back, and I realised that I was never going to break that bond between me and that typewriter. I had to have it. So I bought it. It cost me $164, and I took it home and I put it on a shelf, and then I thought, I have to have another one. And then I had to have another one and another one. And it just kept growing, Frank. Oh, look, all over. I buy a lot on eBay. Friends give me typewriters. I do a weekly trip around all the dumps, the Aussie Junk, Revolve. All those people, they now know me. They see me coming. They say, oh, Robert, we have a typewriter for you today. So they look after me, and I've had some real good finds in those places, some real treasures. Well, this is a little Hermes featherweight made in 1935. Now, you just wonder how a machine this gorgeous and this rare could finish up in a place like Canberra. Somebody must have brought it here, because they certainly weren't sold in Australia. This is a very historic typewriter, Frank. It's the first typewriter in which they used, instead of taking the type bars all the way under the carriage, they just brought them to the type bar here. So it's an extremely historic and significant typewriter. So that's the sort of thing that I can find in a dump in Canberra and pay a mere $5 for. Well, QQ, I discovered primarily through buying things on eBay that there are other people who are just as addicted as I am. So we just found out about one another. We started sending messages and then emails, and suddenly this group developed, and I discovered that, yes, there were other people addicted like me. It made me feel a lot better to find out that I wasn't alone in this world.
So what does QQ stand for?
It's QWERTY Quorum. Now, QWERTY comes from the top of the keyboard, of course, QWERT. And that's the original keyboard that was invented by Christopher Latham Scholes, who invented the first typewriter. And he actually patented this format of the keys in 1874, because when he started, of course, he did the logical thing. He went A, B, C, D, and then he tested it, and he found out that the most commonly used letters were together, and you couldn't type quickly. So they did a survey, and they found out what were the most commonly used letters, and they spread them around the keyboard. And as it turned out, QWERTY was the top line. You can actually spell typewriter with the top line too, by the way. It would have to be a Blinkenstoffer, or maybe this gorgeous Royal. This is a gold-plated Royal that the Royal Company brought out in 1952 to mark its 50th anniversary.
Gold-plated?
It's absolutely gold-plated, yes. Now, this is the machine. Ian Fleming, who wrote all the James Bond novels, was fixated with gold. Everything he had to have a gold name to it. His home in Jamaica was Golden Acres, and of course he wrote Goldfinger, and he had to buy one of these, and he typed his novels on it, these James Bond novels. And after he died, his widow put his typewriter up for sale, and Pierce Brosnan, who'd played James Bond, paid $135,000 for it at an auction in London. Or an awful lot, Frank. I can't tell you exactly how much. The tax man might find out, but probably well into four figures, put it that way.
Is this one of the secrets of the QQ?
Yeah, absolutely. We can't give away too much of these, what these are valued, because we don't want people knocking on our door like you, Frank. Strangers who might be after very valuable pieces of equipment, you know. This is a typewriter I got from Chicago, Frank, last year. And it's an Underwood, and the man who collected it and died, and it passed into his estate, he'd bought it brand new, and he never ever took it out of its case. So as you can see, it is absolutely brand new. It's 82 years old, and it's in perfect condition, never been touched, never been... So now when you open a case like that, Frank, The first thing that strikes you after all these years, 80 years, is the smell of the ribbon. It's unbelievable. It's overpowering. It's the mould on the ribbon.
Right.
It's an absolutely gorgeous smell, and you can't get away from it in this house anyway.
Is that part of the addiction?
Absolutely, yes. So the older the typewriter and the stronger the mould, after all those years, the stronger the scent. The central key is the why. So we consider this the centre of our universe. I think we'll call it the Australian Typewriter Museum, and it will be, yes, I think we'll open it to people to come in and have a look and find out about something, because as time goes on, of course, and people get more and more imbued with the computer age and new technology, this gets pushed further and further back into history. So you get young people see a typewriter, have never actually seen one or touched one or used one.
Well, that's one for the books. I reckon it's fantastic. In fact, being an old journo, I might get a few typewriters myself. I'd forgotten how wonderful they really are. Robert's no sect leader. He's a legend.
It turned out a little differently from our usual expose. Frank Jarbo reporting there. And tomorrow night, we join Robert Messenger again as he takes us on an emotional journey to find a very special typewriter for an 80-year-old nun who lives on a remote island in the Pacific. Hope you can join me for that. If you'd like more details about the QQ, or if you'd like to visit the Typewriter Museum, log on to the In Canberra Tonight website. Good night.
The scent of a typewriter, Frank.